Okay, hello everybody. So we have the third session, and let's start from homework. So the homework was for you to find the examples of performative VR or augmented reality art. So maybe just let's start. Who wants to be the first, or we can go just like how I see your accounts on Zoom. Or maybe someone wants to start. Okay, so let's start as I see. So Sasha, Alexander, you're the first on my Zoom. Maybe you can start.
Am I? Okay.
Oh.
Right. And I should share the computer sound, right? Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. How much time do I have? Few minutes for one project, or because I found two projects, I don't know which one I like more. So
I
do I
think
share just one?
you can share both. We have some time gap, so I think we will be good.
Okay, then I will try to do it quite fast. So I try to find projects connected to performance. Let's say to to performance inside. I don't know if that if what I found is, let's say, fulfills this criteria, but at least the ideas behind I find quite cool. So I wanted to share with you. And the first project that is called Death Tolls Experience, and this is made by Amsterdam-based artist Ali Eslami, and it's VR project, and I haven't seen the full, let's say the full project, but at least like the demo. I don't know if more is available. And the main idea behind is to show or to get the user into the environment to understand better the big numbers when it comes to those death tolls. So in case of like terror attacks or some natural disasters, something else, when we see in the news that how many hundreds of thousands of people died, then it's quite hard for the person to imagine or to understand how big the numbers are. The project is like, I guess it's like a game, or sort of, and the user selects like one of the cases, like some terror attacks or like military attacks on the civilians, and then the user, you just select whatever the case it is, and then the user start in this interesting environment, and this was selected the US drone strikes, and the user just walks in and see how many civilians were killed, and basically the user appears in this room of dead bodies that represents exactly the number of how many people died, and all the bodies here and there, in different shape, different like sizes, and and then the user just can walk in between, and it's more or less endless field or room. The user can lift up to see from the higher perspective, and also to switch between the different fatalities like that. So it's it is. This is the idea. I think it's quite cool as a project as such. So here the user lifts up, and you get into this, I don't know, atmosphere a bit. So that's the first project that I found, and I really like it. The second one is probably I like more, and maybe some of you seen that. It's called Where Does Your Quinoa Come From? And this was done by the artist Alessandra Mira Quesada. She is Peru/UK based, and it's quite short, and I will just show you. Yeah, it's short video from, let's say, from the presentation. And I will comment in a parallel. So the user start to be in the virtual room. Oh, sorry. Before that, I need to give you some background. So the main topic of this project is to show or to raise the awareness of the problem of the food market when it comes to specifically here in with the quinoa. Quinoa. So it's mostly grown in let's say limited place on over the globe. So mostly it's farmed in Peru, and it was always, like for centuries, probably it was considered to be as a very simple and peasant food, very cheap and simple. And just in recent years, with the food blogging and healthy food and vegan food and everything industry, it starts to be very popular, and the food market just boomed, which increased the demand for the food and increased the price for quinoa especially. And as a result, it turned out that people who were for centuries were growing it for themselves, they no longer almost cannot afford it because the prices just went really high. And it's quite a big problem, not only for environment, because the food starts to travel like all over the globe and it's ridiculous, but it's also the impact is not only on the environment, it's not sustainable, but also for the people who is actually producing this food, who are the farmers. And I like this project a lot because it's quite simple. The user starts in this small room with the, I'll just go back a bit, with some YouTube clips on the walls and some scenes from some like morning show when they talk about how cool quinoa is, and you can like even make a whiskey from it. And then it's quite rapidly changes when the walls just go down, and the viewer just ends up like probably like in Peru, and looks like in a farm. And it's a bit also in the background music. And I've never been to Peru, but it feels very I think the atmosphere. Yeah, you get it. You feel it. And yeah, there is also some like installation in parallel. So I think the whole presentation of the project is really, let's say, complete, together with virtual and also like some information in the physical world. Yeah, so really pushes you to question a bit more, to study a bit more about this specific case, but about actually what do we consume, where does all of our food come from, not only quinoa, but it might be even worse for some other type of food that we start to eat now. And yeah, that's I think that's all. So yeah, those are two projects that I wanted to share with you guys. Yeah, that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go next. Zoe, can you share your screen? And also, please unmute.
There it is. Okay. One moment. Ah, wait, no. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay. I have two small projects to share. The first one I actually saw a couple of years ago in a festival, and it's loosely, it only loosely fulfills the criteria, but it was a work in progress, a live performance with one performer on stage, Simon McBurney from Théâtre de Complicité, based in London. But it was using headphones, which used binaural technology, meaning that when you had the headphones on, he was there on stage performing a spoken word performance mostly, but there was also 3D sound. So he was, we were able to hear his voice from where he was standing, but then at certain points, the origin of his voice shifted in our experience as audience, and also there were other sounds coming from other parts of the room. And so it wasn't a full virtual reality, or could that be augmented reality? I'm not entirely sure what that was exactly, but I had a altered perception of reality while in this performance. And it was interesting because it was really showing how much sound can really influence your experience of a space. Because even though my eyes were telling me that Simon McBurney was there on the stage, when his voice came from behind my right shoulder, it was almost impossible not to look over my right shoulder to see what was there. And that was, I found really interesting, this sort of dissonance between what I was able to see and what I was hearing, and what I knew. I knew that there was nothing behind me, but it was irresistible to try and to want to look. And I found that that was really interesting to show how powerful sound can be, and if you shift where sound is coming from, how that can also shift your perception of reality. Yep, I don't have any video or anything of this, but I was there, so that is why I chose this one. The second one is also a lot to do with sound. I found this one, it happened last year, last autumn in the National Theatre also in England, and it was called All Kinds of Limbo. It was a VR musical journey. It also went on tour, so I think it also showed in Sundance Film Festival. And it's they called it, I think, a communal audience experience. So I couldn't find any video of how it actually happened with the audience, but my understanding is that the audience went into the space where this performance was happening, and there was a 3D holographic performance that had been previously recorded by this performer. And I think the audience was there together to witness a sort of a holographic, immersive 3D musical experience. It's a performance by this performer whose name I now cannot find, and it's her history as being in limbo in the UK as a sort of not what does it say? Yeah, anyway, it's a musical because she sings and she performs a sort of a musical history of her life growing up in Britain, and with the influence of lots of different musical cultures, including reggae and grime and classical and calypso and Caribbean influences. And it was about sort of bringing people closer to a story that perhaps many people who go to the National Theatre perhaps haven't experienced as a sort of an integral part of British culture. And I found it interesting because yeah, I mean, I didn't know it had happened and I hadn't seen it, but I think it's sounded like an interesting use of sort of a group audience experience interacting with sound and music, and also with a sort of a political, cultural message. There is a video, but it's I think I can play, like, just to quickly show. it's a making of video. And it shows a little bit how they filmed it.
We don't hear sound. Can you share your sound?
How do I do that?
At the sharing options, there's a 3 dots icon, and there should be a checkbox, share sound from PC. So where there is a tab with the Zoom controls.
I think I've, oh wait, okay, I'm not in Zoom, that's why I don't see it, that's funny.
You can stop sharing and then start sharing again. And when you choosing the window you want to share, there is 2 checkboxes in the bottom.
Maybe it's not so necessary, no?
I have suggestion, maybe just so everybody will have time to present their work. Maybe I will create a Google Drive, and after lecture, everybody can add their materials to Google Drive or Google Doc, so we can watch the videos later.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. I found my thing there. Okay. Good. Did I stop sharing my screen?
Yes.
Good. Okay. That's the end of my presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.
So next, Kiran. You are muted. Can you unmute?
Hear me now?
Yeah.
So yes, I also have 2. I guess that's some kind of trend. I couldn't pick between the 2, but I realized that I didn't take the performance aspect too much to cognition. I just went for VR projects, and I picked 2, and they both not really performance project, but I still found them quite. Yeah, they're both by the same artist called Jeffrey Shaw, who I also know personally because he was the dean of my school back when I did my media studies. So 2 of them, he also talks me, but maybe I'll mute it and just talk over. Yeah. And then you can watch the videos, because he does a more eloquent explanation of the technology behind it, but I'll just talk over on what drew my attention to it. So the first project is called The Golden Calf, which should appear soon. Now, yeah. Oops. Yes. So this is a project with an empty plinth in a gallery, and has a tablet, an iPad. And through the screen, you see this golden calf on the plinth. And it's quite specific. Of course, it's like a golden sculptural object which you will also see on the screen in this. Maybe, let's see. Not really. Okay. But you do see at some point. Yes, there. So it's standing placed there, and part of the thing of the experience is that it's hyper real, because there's another element to, apart from the object itself. So on the plinth, you see these 4 dots on 4 sides. They are cameras that kind of record the perspective of that particular side of the plinth, and then that the visual from the room at real time is being kind of reflected on the body of the calf also. So I've been in this experience a couple of times, and it's very hard to kind of, like on the one hand, over the iPad, you're not seeing the object, but then you can see your reflection on it. And if you move, if somebody comes in, it's quite real time, and it holds up really well. And I found that always, kind of strange experience of being in the moment. And so that's one particular thing. I think in this one, he doesn't talk about the second. Yeah, the second is also, I couldn't find really, these are just, they popped up also from my own experience, because he has a lab in Hong Kong, which is part of the Hong Kong Science Park, where these pieces were in kind of proto display outside the gallery, but inside a media lab. So you could experience it. And so I drew these two out of my own experience of the two works. But the documentations are quite different, because they are already one is in an art context, and the second project is not really an art project. It sits between kind of a digital heritage and design project. So he's also done kind of mapping of ancient archaeological sites, and then displace them in this 360-degree screen. It's a curved screen with a very high definition projection. So it's done through photography and also scanning of the surfaces from the sites, and then they are reinstalled into this digital experience. And this particular one is of the Dunhuang caves. They're actually called the Mogao caves in Mongolia. But the documentation is a bit off. So this context is also, it's a writers' festival. So they've also kind of a bit messed with. So in the in the live experience itself, which is what I saw, you really have the experience of looking in a cave. So at no point are all the lights turned on. For example, yes, this would be the experience. So you have a kind of a joystick-ish device, which is basically serves like a torchlight of where you're looking. And because the screen is completely 360 degrees, you are only shining light on, you're being able to see some things. And I think for the purposes of but you can do things like zooming in to very high detail. You don't ever get a full view, but also strange things like this happen. There are some animations involved, and I'll just show you one aspect. Yeah, sorry, maybe I should. At some point where there are, there's also videos that are embedded into it, so parts of the images come sort of alive, dancing or playing musical instruments, and whatever the content of the situation was. And this particular, it's a very rich, you can imagine the mural is there's no part that's left blank. So it feels like you can keep exploring it endlessly. It's almost, yeah, it feels like some kind of being in an internet of sorts. Yeah, and yeah, I don't know if this really, like, again, where it didn't fit too neatly into the AR, VR, but maybe a kind of a mixed reality. But they're such visceral experiences. I think that the very idea of not flattening the screen, but just making that curvature, and also that darkening, which I think is also part of the nice thing about theater, is that it kind of darkens, and then this other perceptual world can open up. So somewhere that's, yeah, I'll share the links and you can see the wider work, but I think that immediate experience was yeah, yes, shifting reality, I guess. That's all.
Yes, it also corresponds a bit with what I want to talk today, and even this experience with the cow, I wanted to add in the presentation also, because it's quite a famous augmented reality piece. It's also important that it's like not new piece, it's quite old, and so the artist started to work with augmented reality like when it was something really new technology, and then he continued to work with this piece, but adding new possibilities that the technologies gives nowadays.
Yeah. I think, and in fact, one of the links I'll share is a longer talk that he gave in Linz in Ars Electronica, where he really talks about like examples from the whole breadth of his work. And he's really like from the 1994 or 1991, he started. I remember one piece where you sit on those exercise cycles, and then you're basically cycling and you're going through the screen. It's really kind of dated, but it's very funny. It's also like a little archaeology or a little history of media art itself, which is nice to see.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. Let's go next. Yeah, maybe let's try to limit a bit time for presentation, just so everybody will have time. So next, Sophia.
Hi. Oh my God. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I also have two projects, and two of them are kind of related to the research I'm doing now on a work I'm going to make this year, which deals with VR performance and pagan rituals. So the first one I'm going to quickly show is from the STARTS residency from Paris from March 2020. And the artist's name is Choi Ka-fai. And he does work with mixture of performance and VR. And this work is based upon shamanistic practices in Siberia, where he went to do research on trance states. I can show you a small excerpt from the video. So he explores the drumming and way of getting to eccentric and trance state, closer to the dark, and then the performance itself, observing it, and being part of it. I found it quite interesting the relationship and topic which I'm researching also very much intertwines with this. And it's an interesting organization. STARTS, it's Science, Technology and the Arts. It's a European Commission initiative, and they do fantastic residencies, and they do a lot to do with art and technology. So yeah, and then they have really nice videos here also of the residency itself and from the process, also a lot with referential towards the origin of the dance and origin of the beat and how it all comes together. So I will share it, it's nice to have a look at. And another work is from Nonotak studio. It's called Drunken Masters. The thing is, I could not find anywhere what's actually happening in VR set. But I'm working now a lot with a combination between VR and physical reality around the VR. So I found it a very interesting example of introduction of lights within this environment. So I'll also show it. This kind of installation slash performance as a performative act, this lights integrating with the body and the VR headset, where right now we have no idea what's happening. There's something happening. This shadow place. So yeah, something like this. Trying to be very quick.
Thank you.
And I will share the videos with you.
Great. Okay. I don't know, Matteo, do you want also to present something, or go only participants?
I'll skip this time.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sorry if I pronounce any names wrong. So next, Lina.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Okay. So I'm sharing, wait, okay. Share screen, sorry, that's going, okay. Share. I'm sharing a piece that I did not see myself, but I was told off from this German theater collective Rimini Protocol. The presentation of it was already very interesting to me. This, it's basically, the concept is that 2011, there was a famous photo of the Situation Room where 13 American politicians were gathered in a room talking about a certain war conflict. And based on that, they built here, I guess you see the pictures, it's kind of automatically going, it's a bit tricky to see. They built a whole installation of several, just several rooms that are affected with, based on 20 different stories of people in 20 different cultural contexts that have certain, their lives are affected with weapons and war. And as an audience, so what they did, building this installation, and within this installation, actors were reenacting certain scenes. And then as an audience member, you would just enter the installation with a headset and an iPad that would get triggered by every, I think they had some sensors within the installation that when you entered, when you, for example, stood here in front of this kitchen, then a certain story, a certain voice would get triggered, and you would hear a personal story of one of these people who had gone through certain war trade or weapon trade. I have here a video that is going to show it a bit easier, I hope, at least. It's here they, yeah, it's they're say like what are the people that are in here. You can see there's a second audience member that is in the installation. And yeah, what I think is just interesting here is like this kind of very it's a very, I mean, it's a very old school way, I think, to kind of augment the reality. And I think it's a very kind of the way that they did it. Oh God, it's like a lot of text in this video. I think it's just interesting, the emotionality, the how it is if your body is in the like, you create a surrounding that is like really there, looks like the stage that looks like a real scene. You're in the stage scene, and then also having like a personal voice and also the ability to move within the story. Yeah, which I thought was really interesting. Yeah, that's from me.
There was no sound in the end, I think. You're muted. Ah,
okay, yeah, I just basically said, yeah, that was it.
Okay, okay, great. So let's go next. CRCZNG.
Okay, how much time do I have?
About 5 minutes, like this.
Okay, I'm gonna try to share. Sorry, just a sec. I'm gonna try to share this presentation with you. Takes a second. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this presentation is a little bit different because I don't start with the artwork. When I researched this stuff, I thought I found it interesting to start with where I'm coming from, and then at the end comes the selection of the artwork, which you have to research for yourself. But the way to the artwork or to the selection, I think could be interesting. So my background with VR is mainly coming from a sort of DIY punk perspective. Because I realized a few years ago that VR is heavily imbued with technology, with big companies, technological issues, and I thought, how can we make? Okay, I see error messages here. Sorry, I just lost the share.
The screen is still sharing the sound.
I don't see it anymore. There was an error message about some URL, and then I don't see it anymore. I try to do it again. Okay. Okay. Okay, is it back? Yeah. So Imperfect VR came from this perspective of DIY VR with A-frame, with a cardboard, with a smartphone, and I gave a number of workshops about it, and to enable people who are not programmers, who are not coders, who are not technological artists, to enable them to do something with VR. And there's also this notion from Zizek that virtual reality is really a rather miserable idea, which I agree. The reality of the virtual, or the intersection between virtual and real is a more interesting one. And why is it so miserable? We can see that here. That is basically the future of VR, or the presence even of VR as envisioned by big companies. And behind big companies, there are people, and people have values, and these values are basically creeping into these technological things. The second discomfort I have is with the distinction between virtual and real that often comes up in discussions about VR. I think we also had it here because what is actually virtual, it goes back to Aristotle and other philosophers, that you can talk about virtual as something non-actualized, something that's not actually here but has a potential, so it's possible. But when I'm in a VR, I'm actually there. It's actually something real. So it's just not the real. What kind of real could it be? It's either some sort of reality, some modality of reality, or it is something virtual, which is outside of reality. So I found this distinction pretty interesting. So I choose virtual versus physical, which has also problems, but because of physical is going to become virtual as well, as you can see here from this haptic virtualization of haptics that is happening already. And this is basically the field, or these questions, they are all connected. I just want to give you the impression of complexity. And then what really interests me is the matter of VR and perception. So Chris Salter's work, for example, I could have chosen this as an example, but I didn't. Ruth Schnell, who works with Flickr and also based on research on perception, could have chosen this, but I didn't. Marshmallow Laser Feast, who talk about animal perception in the context of VR, which I find interesting. It's a bit more commercial, but it's also interesting. I could have chosen this one, but I didn't. And so the one I chose was coming from coming from a recent prize, which has 5 nominees. And I looked at this prize and it's quite artistic. So they all choose like arty people. But if you think back to the distinction between virtual and physical, I looked at a piece of Buns and Bowinkle, and this is the piece I actually selected, but you have to research about it yourself. And it's called Mercury, and you can see the physical and the virtual in a sort of aesthetic togetherness. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, let's go next. Jonas?
Yes. Allow me to share my screen. This one. Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm going to present you to an artist. Maybe you know her already. So her name is Anna Siliaeva. So she is a French-Russian artist. So she's really like an early adopter of the virtual reality. So what she's doing, so for every artwork that she's producing, she's doing like a mixed reality video. So her techniques basically allows a person which is not equipped with a virtual reality headset to watch her paint inside the virtual work. Gonna start the video. Yeah, so as you can see, she's wearing a VR headset and she's painting with 2 remotes. Yeah, she's, in that sense, she's really like free to create whatever she wants. She has like predetermined shapes, rectangle, circle, square. She can adjust it to her needs. Yeah. So, 1 second. Yeah, so I think it's really interesting because she's really like constantly improving her techniques and pushing like boundaries in virtual reality. And his immersive works, she's trying to make her work look like really real from any angles. And she's really free to move within her own environment and to admire her work as well. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Also about 3D painting, like tilt brush, maybe just to know, like you can use, as an artist, you can use it to create your spaces. You can use different like brushes, techniques, and also you can use it to create like animations, cartoons or films, and also it has possibilities not just to show finished result, but you can play the whole sequence, how you draw it, so the viewer can also like, be inside this world when you actually draw all this painting. Okay, thank you again. Let's go to the next one. Leonard.
Hello.
Hello.
So I will share the piece called Das totale Tanztheater. So how can I do that? So, one minute. So, and actually, I think there is a nice video. How now? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then I think I will, it will be more easier than I will just show the video of this piece because it's explain all the aspects what we are talking in this workshop. And it's really, there is a lot of technical things, which I think it's very interesting. And yeah, so, and then in the end, I will say why I like it so much. So.
Welcome, willkommen zu Das totale Tanztheater. A virtual reality laboratory, a ballad exploring the relationship between man and machine. A colossal space. Tanzmaschinen expressing the desire for evolution through movement. Costumes that come to life through the dynamics of dance. An immersive soundscape spiraling upwards towards a grand finale.
100 years ago at the Bauhaus, particularly on the stage of the Bauhaus, Oskar Schlemmer explored the role of mankind in the mechanized age in an artistic and experimental way. For this, he created stage experiments. At the same time, Walter Gropius concerned himself with concepts for a total theater, a structure in which spectators were to become part of the events on stage. Virtual reality is the medium that expresses these ideas nowadays. In terms of narrative, it is about how much influence man has over machines. These are also the fears that drive society. Who controls whom? And in Das totale Tanztheater, the influential power shifts from man to machine in the course of the story.
The double nature of man and machine was reflected also in the music and in the sound design. During the dramaturgy of the thing, there is the electronic section, the electronic part, let's say the machine part, that takes over on the acoustic part. So at the beginning it's more acoustic and at the end it's really electronic.
First we started off with the stage. We designed an architecture which is 400 meters high and has enough space to fit 4 levels in. And on each of these levels, an act is performed. The main challenges in this project were the dimensions of the tower itself, and that the spectator is free to look around everywhere, because we had to create a lighting design that allowed for this. We started to develop the costumes before we started with the choreography, in order to create the framework for the dancers. Together with Richard Siegel, we then developed a choreography through a very interesting trial and error process that was actually based on small dance movements. These were then generatively compiled by the computer. I would say that 50% of the choreography consists of programming, the other 50% of dance. Schlemmer developed his costumes according to a basic principle, that the costume should give the dancer restrictions to a certain degree. Our 4 costumes follow the same principle. They are not intended to be static garments. Here we worked with 3 rings that depict the dancer's coordinate system. The top ring is assigned to the head, the second to the shoulder, and the third to the pelvis. Depending on how the dancer moves, the rings move accordingly and position themselves in relation to the body of the dancer.
It was really interesting to put that virtual costume on and try to use its limitations, but also its possibilities, because I couldn't cross my hands, but I could use the hands separately and twist the rest of the body.
It certainly is different. It's not live theater. It's more akin to, I would say, making a film, making a movie. The nature of that collaboration is that there's so many different forms of technical expertise that no one person really has a command over the entire idiom.
It is not just a dance that is performed for the viewer, but one that also involves the viewer. The users can go inside the crowd and can dance directly with the dancers. The spectator is approached and involved in the dance, sometimes even moved around. And that is a completely different kind of performance, because the viewer becomes a dancer themselves. It's like a 12-minute short film without a single cut. This in itself is already a feat in classic cinema. To do this with 400 dancers in such a crazy architecture is truly unique.
To build this bridge between different departments, between the different artists, was not always easy. But that's where the challenge lies, and what makes it exciting when, in the end, we all share the same vision and bring the project to life.
Ein Projekt auf die Beine stellen.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, so I found this art piece pretty amazing. First of all, because it really shows there was artists who was thinking in this direction already 100 years ago, and finally, because of technology, we can make it real. Another thing, what I found as a problem in a lot of VR and augmented reality artworks is the lack of quality of architecture, design, graphic design, because sometimes there is too much this hype about these technology possibilities, but a lack of these qualities, because there need to be some quality of graphic design, or like this piece, amazing architecture quality. So I think in this piece it was pretty amazing, the merge of all the quality of dance, architecture, costume design, sound. Yeah.
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 Thank you. Yeah, it was great experience. It's actually one of possibilities of VR when we can use some ideas from the past, some great ideas from the past that couldn't be implemented in that time, but with VR we can renew these ideas. And also about the quality, yeah, I saw this myself, it's not only in VR but in media art, that I think it's one of the reasons is because sometimes artists just start to work with some technology and they really like something, and they don't go deeper and don't try to learn more about complexity of technology, and just use some simple stuff, and so the work in the end can look not complete and a bit like old stuff, because yes, VR and media art is not a new technology anymore in the art, so it's important to think about the design, the architecture, the whole this stuff. Yeah, thank you again. I think we, Vera, can you present? I think, yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Do you see? This is. Do you see my screen? Do you hear my sound?
Yeah, now it's better. Yeah.
So I found that Dust is a virtual reality contemporary dance performance. in which audiences use VR headsets to experience a performance from the perspective of particle traveling in the space. This performance was created by Maria Yudova and Andrei Boleslavsky, two Prague-based artists. So they used Kinect Depth Sensor in custom software to capture a recording of movements and sounds and real-time render to create 4 minutes performance, which people visiting exhibition could immerse into this performance. So how it worked, we can see here on the video.
Everything that is was formed from dust. The sun, planets, our earth, our bodies. How to become a dust particle again, and what it would be like to see the world from a different perspective.
Often, when I watch dance, I have the desire to be really close up, to float around, invisible. And virtual reality has given us the opportunity to experience it. We created our own set of tools and made the volumetric recordings of the dancers to be able to immerse the people right next to them and look at the performance from any point of view.
We wanted the audience to feel like there are dust particles floating in the immediate presence of the dancers. They can even step inside them.
Inspired by these eternal particles, which were part of our bodies for an incredibly short moment, we wanted to reimagine our perception of a body, of space, and of time.
So all performances that I have found, it's about Kinect technology that capture movements of the dancers in the real world and transfer into the VR. So this is, next slide is about tutorial VR performance in Florence in 2019. Unfortunately, there are no video, but the concept is behind that when people wearing VR headset, VR guide the performer and teaches people how to dance. Even the participants are not professional dancers, they're trying to repeat movements of the avatar. So I think that technology came from actually some game like Kinect Box 360, and this is virtual game Dance Central VR. So as we see, person is dancing and the Kinect digital technology transmit his movement into the VR, and that avatar is teaches how to dance. So people enjoy a lot. And this is the same technology. And about Museum of Other Realities, in the VR, this is made by Eric Chung and Robin Statham, and they presented it on the TEDx. It is actually only 5 days ago. They uploaded that video. So as I understood from that performance, the avatar is trying to repeat movements of the real person who's dancing in front of Kinect data, but the visualization is very good because real person is not good and avatar is not so good. But
Vera, sorry to interrupt you. Can you pause a moment?
Yeah.
Just a quick announcement for you and the others. Due to how compression works in Zoom, it's not a good idea to share sound and talk in a moment. So it's better to maybe show a part of the video and then comment, or like show the full video and then comment, or disable the audio from the video and comment during it? Sorry.
Okay, so I actually finished. Thanks for that notice. And this is all about Kinect technology, real dancers, and transmitted that dance into the VR.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I think we have the last presentation, Samuel.
What's the question?
No, thank you. I think we have one another presentation. Samuel, will you present today?
Yes, for sure. Let me.
Vera, can you stop the sharing your screen?
I don't know how. I found, I think. But it cannot. Here. Yes. No, I did it.
Okay, you can see the screen, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. I am actually I chose a piece which is a bit old at this point, but also a piece that I was a part of making, which is called The Operature, which I made as a collective called Adam R. And I wanted to show this piece because as I was looking through also examples of AR, work with AR and VR, I was thinking about how those technologies are engaged with, and I realized that actually in this piece, a lot of the engagement with AR and VR is actually for the performers of the piece, not necessarily for the audience. And so I thought it might be an interesting example to show just kind of a clip from how that works with the piece, and I can kind of explain. The clip I'll show is actually from the part of the performance where the audience is involved sort of in the performance in a slightly more passive way, but I'll just play the clip and then I just say a little about the piece and what uses the technology.
76 feet from, 77 feet from another brushy drop of scarlet. Please come around. Please come around, and with the help of our assistants, partake in this delicious anatomical display. One, two. 1, 2. Exhibit B is the fair and accurate representation of the objects and or scene as it appeared on March 28th, 2014 at 655 South State Street, Chicago, Illinois. Busby, Bob, 10, Roman numeral 6.
Okay, I just stopped there. This piece called The Operature is about an examination of the archives of an American academic and gay pornographer named Samuel Stewart, who's also a tattoo artist. And as we we're kind of going back through his archive. We wanted to find a way to actually open the archive to make it available. So the way that we chose to do that is through the use and recreation of his tattoos that were part of his archive. And all of the tattoos that are put on our bodies are then scannable, and they open up geographic data and locative data that's presented to the audience, but also changes the scopes of the performance. So all of the text we're using in the performance, all of the visual displays, you can see there's this table in the middle of the room. And I'm not sure in the video if you could see, but there's also a really huge projection on the wall that has also this kind of ever-changing poetic display. And all of these elements are affected by the geographic and temporal data that's taken from the time at which the tattoos are scanned and the information about who is scanning the tattoos in the first place. So there's kind of the piece sort of starts by us kind of scanning each other and taking text which is generated by the location. And then in the middle of the performance, the audience can sort of enter. And as they scan the information, it changes the course of the rest of the performance. So in terms of choreography, it remains fairly similar, but a lot of the text and visual overlay and the trajectory of how the kind of our interaction with the technological elements works, those kind of take a different course. So they affect the outcome of the piece and also a lot of the visual elements. But the one kind of philosophy behind it is that we really wanted to use the overlays, the augmented reality overlays, as a way of giving the performers also deeper access to the archive material. So that means that during the performance, we wanted to sort of use it as a way to embed ourselves a bit deeper in the world. The audience also gets access to this, and there's also a gallery version which operates a bit more of a video, where you can sort of use the technology a bit more in depth. But yeah, I mean, I think that's maybe that kind of covers it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone or anyone wants to present also? I think it's everybody presented already, and those who can't present today can present to on the next session. So thank you again. Please add all the materials to the Google Drive or Google Doc. I will send you a link after session. And now let's start the new lecture. I will share my screen. Do you see the screen? Yeah, okay. Yep. So today we will talk again about performative arts in virtual and augmented realities, but I will want to talk about XR not only like helmet or phone, like the traditional meaning of VR and AR, because we, as today already was said, like these terms, they can be understood more widely, and actually historically by VR and AR, even like games were considered like virtual reality or like screen presentation, or even like this text on TV screen was considered as augmented reality. The reason why I want to widen the terms is because like XR technologies are only a small bit of the digital technologies, and in art pieces we want to make, we can use like several techniques. So we can combine like virtual reality and for example, artificial intelligence and performance. And also the important is that we should think not only about the technologies that are known today, but digital area is very fast developing, and new technologies will arrive also, and they will be part of our everyday life, and they will change not only art but our lifestyle. And we as an artist, we should think we should use the technologies not only as a tool, but also think about how we react to all these changes in the world, and how we can show it in our art. So for today's lecture, I will think about virtual reality, like digital interactive environment. So it could be not only virtual reality in helmet, but it could be presentation, video projection, mapping, and augmented reality, mixed reality. Main term will be coexistence and relationship of physical and digital. So when digital and physical space are in the same place and in the same time. And I will focus on the term of empathy. I think empathy is one of the core items of performance, as I see it. It's about how the viewer and the artist or the viewers correspond one to each other, and how they understand the body and the emotions of others. So we will talk about several techniques quite popular now, but still in a development phase. So the first is brain-computer interface or neural networks. So I need this link. Okay, I will open like this. I think a lot of you already knew what is brain-computer interface, but still for those who may be not so familiar, let's watch a really quick video about what is BCI and how it changes the communication for people. I'm sorry, do you have sound from my sharing? Yeah.
Imagine moving a mechanical arm by just thinking about it, or playing a video game using only your mind. Yes. Although it may seem like science fiction, scientists and engineers have been developing this technology for decades. It's called brain-computer interface, or BCI.
The field of brain-computer interfaces relies on the ability of the brain to be able to generate certain types of responses that can then be harnessed by computers to be able to be interpreted by computers.
Dr. Rajesh Rao is a neuroengineer and director of the Center for Sensory Motor Neuroengineering at the University of Washington, and is funded by the National Science Foundation. He is developing safe, non-invasive devices that can connect to the brain to accomplish things like controlling a prosthetic arm or sending commands to a computer.
Looking at the development of the whole field of brain-computer interfaces is to think of it in terms of studying how the brain controls the body.
Whether it's telling the legs to jump in the air or activating glands to produce sweat, the body's actions and functions are controlled by neurons. They communicate information to and from the brain and the rest of the nervous system using chemical and electrical signals.
And so they're sending electrical pulses to each other and eventually to the muscles that control our body.
Much like how the brain controls muscles, researchers can use new technologies to tap into these signals to control machines.
The understanding of how the brain controls movement led to the development of devices and algorithms that can be implemented on a computer that can recognize these patterns in the activity of brain cells and then correspondingly move an artificial device.
To demonstrate how this technology works, Rao and his team of students use a BCI that allows them to study nonverbal communication. First, the student is fitted with an electroencephalogram, or EEG cap, which is a series of electrodes placed on the scalp to record brain signals. When a question appears on the monitor, the student answers yes or no by looking at one of the flashing lights, which are blinking at different frequencies. When the subject's eyes focus on one of the response lights, the frequency of that specific light is picked up by the visual cortex in the brain and measured by the EEG cap. 12 hertz represents a yes frequency, while a no is at a frequency of 13 hertz.
Now you can see the peaks right around 12 hertz. No is 12 hertz.
The computer interprets the signal and moves the cursor in the direction of the response. Using an EEG cap isn't the only way to measure brain activity. Some BCIs use a method called electrocorticography. It also records brain activity, but unlike the EEG cap, it is surgically placed directly on the surface of the brain, providing a clearer signal and more precise information.
For example, they can imagine moving their hand, and we use the computer to extract the patterns that correspond to the imagined movement of the hand, compared to, for example, not imagining and just resting.
From there, the computer can distinguish the two types of brain activity: imagining movement and not imagining movement, then use that information to enable hand control by mental activity.
Given the right kinds of information and the right kinds of devices that are useful for the animal, the brain can start to adapt.
With practice, the brain can learn to do something it's never done before, like control a prosthetic it's not familiar with. But the key is to understand how these neural networks communicate between the brain and the body.
If you're able to understand the brain better, then you also able to build better brain computer interfaces, because then they can use those signals that are responsible for different kinds of movements.
As Rao continues to collaborate with engineers, neuroscientists, and neurosurgeons to develop more BCI devices, he is working toward a future where the brain and technology come together seamlessly.
Okay, so as we saw on the video, the brain-computer interface is about capturing the signals from our mind and then interpret this data. You can interpret it like you can just work with this information in just like all other information without any analysis, or you can do some analysis and like teach or learn the software. So it's not only capturing the data from our brain, but actually it's like reading the thoughts. So when the person will think about something, the computer will understand based on these neural signals what we are thinking about. So this in the future it will be a huge change for, of course, gaming industry, advertising, our communication also, because we will be able just to write without like keyboard, just thinking about this. These interfaces, as was told in the video, they could be like implemented, but they also be non-invasive. They can be like these sensors put on your head. Even it could be very portable. Of course, some simple versions won't give you a lot of information, but still there are these devices are available to buy They are not very expensive, but of course the accuracy and the data, it's not so great, but even these devices can be used for artistic purposes, or you can work with some more complex brain-computer interfaces to work with actual complex data. So some examples how it could be used in performative art. It could be used like a sound or space environment generation. This brain-computer interface is the artist wears BCI, and based on his mind waves, the environment changes or generates from scratch.
Darina, can I ask you one thing before starting the video? Can you make sure that you're sharing the sound too?
Yeah, this was my question.
Like we heard it, but I think it was from the microphone. So
yes, I think also.
No, it's not here.
Do I need to reconnect, or can? No.
No, you can stop sharing, then start sharing again. And when you see this window with different windows you will share, there is a checkbox down below with the text that share sound from computer or something.
Yep, I found it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next example will be the installation performance. I think it was presented on Ars Electronics. So in this work, I think the idea itself is not so super complex, but it's quite detailed with the sound and these visuals and really high quality. So you can see this 3D space, generated 3D space was shown just like projection on a wall and on the floor, but you also can use it with augmented and virtual reality, like with helmets or iPads. So when you generate this 3D environment, it will be shown as 3D space in helmet. The other example of BCI is, of course, like mind control. So it's not just capturing the data from the mind and generating the environment, but when the artist already knows how he or she can change, for example, the output, so change like the sound or the visuals, and so the performance is like actual when the artist actually controlling the output of the data. So this is not only like thinking about anything you want. The artist actually knows what she's doing. She knows that when she focus, or for example, she's nervous, the audio or the visuals will be like this. And so on the performance, she needs to control herself, her emotions, to control the work. this was quite short video, but I think you get the impression. So these visuals and the sounds is all generated just by her mind. Also, the sensors can be like there are a lot of other sensors, and you can read the data not only from your mind but from heartbeat or like this artist. She made this backpack. Yeah. Yeah, so this is a backpack, and it reads the data from her body with the sensors connected to her back. And the idea of this work was to research the sexuality and to show this to show her sexuality and her feelings. She was just working with this backpack in the public, and so the color of her backpack changes based on her emotions and current mood. Yeah, it's.
And this year I've been working on a project that I call Shibon. And Shibon is all about sensing and indicating intimate aspects of our physical state that would otherwise go completely unnoticed. And in my case, this particularly has to do with my level of arousal. In order to pull this off, I had to create a platform that could network multiple wearable devices together and make sense of data coming in from different types of sensors to tell what's going on and when my body crosses a particular threshold that actually means I'm turned on. The primary platform is a board called the Pulse. I chose to house this board inside of a backpack because it's kind of centrally located on my body. And the backpack more or less turns the Pulse into a wearable breakout board. There are jacks located around the outside of the backpack that you can plug individual wearable augments into, and the board is responsible for sending and receiving data as well as logging it. The other half of the primary platform is a arm-mounted user interface that I'm calling the Pop Girl, and it acts as a status indicator for all of the things going on throughout your body. You could think of the two parts of the system as the computer tower and the computer monitor. And I'm going to show you them working right now. Yeah? This is Sarah, and I have the Pulse pack on my back. And currently there are two things plugged into it. Down at the bottom here, at the tip of the heart, I have the Pop Girl interface, and then on the left side right here, I have the sensor from my propeller pasties plugged in. And I'm going to use that sensor to demonstrate to you how the input will display on the user interface once it starts receiving values. Since this is a IR distance sensor that's worn on the nipple, once it starts sensing something, it's going to change the color of the little robot girl's boobies. So if I move my thumb closer to the sensor, it'll light up. If I go far away, it'll go back to being transparent. The thing that makes this interface pretty awesome is if you touch it, it'll take you to a specific menu where you can click on the thing that you want to check out in detail. And you can see the actual value received by the sensor down at the bottom there. And then if I want to go back out, I can poke the nipple and it will take me back to the menu screen with all the body parts. Once I finish building all the other peripherals that go around the exterior of the backpack and it's fully loaded, I'll be able to monitor all the sensor values on the screen and know exactly what's going on with my body at any point in time. Core system's working. In addition to receiving data, there's a performative aspect to these augments as well, because I said sensing and indicating, right? I believe that all this technology that we're creating for ourselves as hackers and makers can also be used to add another layer of self-expression and individuality to everyday life. So The other challenge of this project was to figure out exactly how I wanted to manifest that data that I'm receiving from my augments. So this summer I've created a pair of whispering panties that vibrates my nether region with sound waves at a volume equal to my heart rate. And that augment is called the Beatbox. I've created a pair of pasties that senses nipple diameter in order to spin propellers on the outside. I've created a hip-squeezing belt that has 2 winches mounted on either side of my pelvic bone, and they're responsible for ratcheting my butt cheeks apart to an amount equal to the temperature between my thighs in order to produce thigh gap. While I was working on this project, one of the byproducts that I think was very important is that it got people talking about unconventional engineering problems, and because of this, it also kind of covertly got them talking about kinks and sexuality and pleasure in a way that was kind of human and relatable, but also kind of detached from whatever part of that feels taboo. What I'm aiming to achieve is encouraging a more healthy, general, approachable dialogue about sex amongst humans. And I'm hoping to achieve this using technology and engineering. In closing, I'm gonna get back to work. If you're interested in any of the augments I've created or want more information about the
a bit long video, but I wanted to watch it because this project is not only about sensors, but also about makers community and do-it-yourself community. I think in every country you can find, it's like a very wide community of developers who work in small groups or like by themselves, and they work not like a big companies, but they work with some stuff that you can actually do yourself, and this is a very open community. You can find information on the internet. You can find these people. There is also a lot of festivals, I think, in every big cities. It's also related to the question how you as an artist can find developers or people to work with. You can monitor these events, DIY, do it yourself, makers, maker fairs, and talk to these people, because they usually work with some new stuff. They experiment, a lot of experiments, and a lot of artistic experiments. You can see that all this backpack she made by herself. I think she used Arduino, and she also the details. You can see that the details were actually printed on a 3D printer. You can use it also a lot to make some parts of your work, or some details to actually build the equipment. The next example will be also like a 3D printer, printing and BCI, but it will be about actual the design.
The average human brain contains about 86 billion nerve cells called neurons. Neurons communicate with each other by sending chemical and electrical signals. These neurons communicate in unique ways. Uncovering how the human brain sends signals to our body has been for long one of the biggest mysteries in science. Researchers from the young using 1024 covering the full brain, never before seen resolution. The pangolin system is fitted onto our model to extract commands through the use of EEG in order to custom technologies into a one-of-a-kind body system, into robotic dress as data visualizer, into this.
It's not the only one example. this is interesting how these narrow interfaces, they're used for design for the clothes. Currently, it's not like very common to see such dresses on the street, but this is also something you can think about, how it will change our not only everyday life, but even clothes. And can clothes be also the addition to our emotional state, and can the clothes tell another person how you feel, and can you control this as you control yourself? As I already mentioned, Arduino, what is this? Arduino is a very simple computer device. Like you can, it's quite cheap and it's easy. You don't need to be a programmer. You can find a lot of tutorials and examples. You can buy different sensors. For example, like sensors to measure temperature of your body, or to get information from the cameras, and then you can write a bit of code and to manage this data. On the left is Lillipad. It's one of the types of Arduino. It works with like these nets connected to your body. If you're interested, you can just check out the information on the internet. Another example will be the work. It was presented. It's artists from Germany, from Dresden. It was made in Unity, and you can see that this is HTC Vive, like the normal VR helmet, but they added Arduino sensor for heartbeat, also measures the temperature, and a wind sensor to measure how you breathe. And they printed, you can see here, they printed this part of the mask on the 3D printer, just to avoid another sounds, just to record only breathing and voice of the viewer. And in this environment, they also used Kinect to capture movements. So it's quite complex work, and you are in a 3D space, and based on your breathing, you need to learn how you need. If you breathe in some like in some way, you start to fly up or down. So you don't know how you need to breathe, but you need to learn it, and then you can, by breathing, you can fly in this space, and also by moving.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh my god, Katarina, what are you doing? Wohin muss ich? What the fuck? Und
So this was also the example of using different sensors in your work. And actually the artists themselves, Katarina Gross and her husband, they are not like, they don't work as programmers, but they still managed to learn themselves how to work with Kinect, Arduino and Unity, and they made this work themselves. So now let's talk about artificial intelligence, another quite popular topic nowadays. We won't watch this, but I just will leave this link. This is a series made by YouTube, The Age of Artificial Intelligence. It's quite like simple, maybe even commercial, just but it's still interesting because it gives quite different views on perspectives how artificial intelligence could be used in our day lives. Because actually, when we're talking about AI, we are thinking about like robotics, like new humans, but artificial intelligence can be used in much wider spheres of our lives. Here I wanted to think about how artificial intelligence will influence our life in the future. So what is artificial intelligence by itself? It's not like robot. It's a technology a new technology for programming, not algorithmic programming, but for machines to be able to learn. So we give some data to a computer, and then like a kid learns when he's little, program is learning based on this data you give it, and you give like the data and like the question, and you give the answer, so yes or no, and the computer learns what is the correct answer, and then you will give him, the computer, the program, the new data, and it should make a decision how to react to this new data based on its previous experience. And also it will continue to learn, and like the idea of artificial intelligence is learning continuously, and its decisions are better each time. But artificial intelligence itself, it's not like it can't work with all areas. It works only with the area you are teaching it. For example, you teach it to play chess. So this artificial intelligence will be able only to play chess. It will be able to make it to play it better, but it won't be able to drive a car. And other artificial intelligence that is built on the data of driving a car will be able only to drive a car. But still, these types of artificial intelligence can be really really different, and they can work by themselves, but also they can communicate with real humans. It's like you can find artificial intelligence like bots, and you can talk to them, and they can react based on your sound or words. And in the future, of course, this will be highly implemented in our life. Even now, it's already implementing. We don't see it. Sometimes we don't see it, but it's already there. For example, algorithm Facebook is using to analyze photos or videos or posts or advertising. But in the future, it will be used more widely, and it will change our living conditions. It will change how we move, how we use our cars, or how we use our even furniture or some devices at home. It will also make improvements to our body and mind. I mean, of course, for example, it could help people with some problems with the problems if you have an accident and you don't have some part of your body, it can be replaced with some artificial intelligence and some body prototype, and it can also improve your mind and physical abilities, so you will be able to do and to remember more. Like the term of the memory is very interesting, because the memory itself already changed very much, because previously we need to remember like the numbers of the phones, we needed to remember dates of birth, and now a lot of this stuff, it's we use our phone, and it changes how we manage the information, because the information itself it became a lot. It's the amount of information became greater, and we can't memory everything. But we start to use it differently. Now we remember how we can achieve some information. So we don't remember sometimes information, but we know how to get it and where we save it. And of course, artificial intelligence will change our way of communication, because even simple messaging is already not the same as speaking in real time, but the artificial intelligence will add another layer, because we will now think about if it's a real human or if it's not a real human, how we perceive this not human person. We need to talk, for example, when we want to buy something, or we want to, or in some like communication, like with psychologists, you can talk to a real person, but you also, there is like some bots you can talk, and so this merge and change of speaking to real and not real person. And again, how artificial intelligence can be used in art. It could be used again as a generation of the space, of the sound, of some movements. It can be, for example, some model, and artificial intelligence just generates the movements of this model or the color of this model. Well, but also it can be real-time interactions. So like artificial intelligence, as I said, is learning continuously, and so you can put this artificial intelligence in your work, and the viewer will communicate to this artificial intelligence, and your work will change with the time, because when the program communicates with a lot of people, her database changes, and the reactions will change. And we can also think about artificial intelligence as an artist in some kind of form. We can use it to generate art, not like give the strict direction what to create, but to give some possibilities, and watch how this program will generate the output. And some examples. So in this example, it's a dance performance, and I think it's even this artist. She works with several projects with artificial intelligence and dance, and she uses a Kinect camera to capture movements, and then there is this skeleton. It not only it not copies her movements, but it learns from her movements, and then it dances with her like a real person. So this was about communication with AI, but not for a viewer, but by performance. I think it's more about AI as an artist, so it is part of her performance. Another example will be artificial intelligence plus biometric data. Brainwave. So Ellen Perlman is an American artist. She works with digital performances, and why it's so wide? So in her performances, the performer wears brainwave headset, and based on her emotions, is she angry or is she pleased, the visuals and the sound changes, and they changes not linearly but also based on artificial intelligence. So at the first you learn the program how to react, and then on the performance the data from brain waves is given to a program, and then a program, artificial intelligence, analyzes and finds patterns, and then changes the visuals and the sound.
Brain computer headset on Steve, the performer. Her body will light up with 4 different colors. Colors reflect her emotions. Red for frustration, green for meditation, purple for interest, and yellow for excitement. At the same time, her emotions will trigger data banks pre-selected of videos and audio. She will be in a spoken word libretto, which you will see here. And we have an AI that we created from scratch to be kind of sicko or perverted. And we will launch the AI to give responses to her libretto.
You said, with a mistress, the burden is light, and everything is placed on the level of a gift.
The most important thing in life is sleep and dreams.
And the AI will light up in different colors because we're analyzing the emotions of the AI's response. So we're analyzing the synthetic emotions of a synthetic being. You will also see the AI here try to take the images from the performer's memory, which you will see, and try to make them work, but they're not because the AI doesn't know how to really make emotions yet. You want it to be better.
I can hardly think of anything. I am so distressed.
You do answer me.
I can't stand that if you like to think I'm a drinker.
And the last example will be a bit similar. It's sensors put on the dancer, and then when he moves, the artificial intelligence analyzes this data, and based on previous experience, it generates sound melody played on a piano.
とあと背中に、加速度の角速度と、筋電センサーと伸縮センサーをつけて、その値を見ることによって、動きを認識しています。それを PC で受け取り、それを音楽フレーズにパソコンの中で変換しまして、さらにそれをオーディオインターフェースが返すことによってピアノまで、ミディを流して音を鳴らしています。
ヤマハにとっての AI は楽器と人間をつなぐ架け橋みたいな存在じゃないかなと思っています。AI 技術自体はいろんな種類がありまして、このダンサーとの共演は今回のためにまた新しく作ったか。
Yeah, so here was the example how by dancing you can actually control the music played. And this will be the end of today's presentation. So the main ideas I want to repeat. I wanted to tell you about today. It's different other technologies of that you can use for performance or for VR performance or augmented reality performance. You can use different sensors and interfaces and artificial intelligence. These areas are they're still new and developing. So I highly recommend to check what is currently done and what is in the stage of development and how it can be used by you. And also for the next session, I will ask you again to make a small homework to find, let's make one piece of performance using AI or BCI or different sensors. And now if you have questions, you can ask. I can tell you more about something, or maybe other type of questions.
I want to ask about getting the data from the sensors. For example, if I have like Arduino board and I have like few sensors, and as I understood, there should be some like plugins or like interfaces in Unity, right? That you like added, or basically if you create like 3D space, and then if I have somehow, you know, the data transmitted from my sensors, is it something like let's say available, these interfaces, or is it usual that you build by your own if you do something like in this based on Unity?
Yeah, I myself, although I currently have access to Arduino, I still haven't time to make some experiments, but I'm sure it will be some plugins or SDKs, probably on the asset stores or on GitLab, GitHub, and usually it's not only about Arduino, it's about all different sensors and costumes. They are provided with some SDKs, sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes with documentation. It's good. The best is if there is SDK or plugin and documentation and examples. So we can load some projects. With Arduino, I think you can just Google some, like, for example, Arduino Unity projects. I'm sure that because this community of makers, they are quite open and they post a lot of stuff online. So you can load an example and then check how it works, and then make some changes by yourself. I think in Unity or other game engine, you will be given by some inputs, and so these inputs can range by some values, and so you will, just like you have input from the microphone, you will have input from the Arduino, and then you can work however you want to work with it.
Cool. Thanks.
I have a question in regards to data around emotions. I'm not sure if I understood that correctly. I understand that they track emotions through body data, such as temperatures or values that you can track from the data. Also maybe from language, but I was wondering if you could spend a few more words about how affects and emotions are tracked and turned into input data.
Yeah, it's actually what I've tested myself. It's not very perfect, but it was some kind of this headset. It was called Emotive. Maybe this is also, yeah, this is Emotive. It's not very good, but still it gives you an example. So it's actually only these sensors. They just they are just on your head, and they need to be connected to your skin. Just touch it. And then there is an application on your phone. You connect it to this headset, and it tracks signals. It's all that she needs. These sensors, they can track signals, and they can separate like this, like happiness or like angry or anxiety, like the most basic emotions, they of course be easier to be separated, and then in this application you will be asked to go through some kind of training, and you can watch. You will see the output of with different colors of your waves, and you will be asked, for example, to relax, to not think about something, and you will see how actually these waves are changed. I can't say how exactly this works, but I think it's just based on frequency and just how our minds works, like different type of brain state, like relaxation or fear. It gives these waves different frequency, and of course, like the simplest headsets, they will have mistakes and can't separate these emotions very good. But if we have more sensors and it is trained for a longer time, it will give more accurate separation of this emotion. This is like the idea of BCI, to actually read the data from your mind and to understand the emotions. Have I answered your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question? If no, I want also to say about that we have 2 sessions left, and on the last session, it would be great if we will have not the lecture, but a presentation, not in this, not other works, but the ideas of your works. So it will be not the next time, but the last time. And I will ask you to start thinking about these projects. You need to do it yourself. And then on the last session, you will present your ideas. It should be, please make some sketches, maybe some audios, videos, photos, any materials that can visualize your idea. And please add some technical moments, like you have an idea and you need to think about what devices you will need and how will you work with your idea. And we'll discuss together what is good and what can have problems. And the last one I wanted to say again, the great thing about digital technologies is when you can test it yourself. As like today we're talking about neural interfaces, but it's great when you actually get this one and even the bad one, and you have access to it and you test it. So if you have an idea to work with some technique, it's great to be able to test it on the start of your idea, because it just, even if you know everything about technology, for example, I know what is 3D printing, but yesterday I was like printing my first stuff, and I was just like 2 hours watching how it was printing, and Arduino and interfaces, it works differently as you think about it. You need to check it yourself. So again, for the next session, please, your homework will be one work based on today's lecture, and for the last session will be to make a presentation of your own idea, virtual augmented reality performance. So thank you. I will post.
Wait, I have an announcement.
Yeah.
Sorry. Now, just want to say, Nikita, please fill me in this, that we have uploaded the last two sessions on the Vimeo channel, Casa Marziano, so you will find it there. And as of today, we are using the Vimeo server to record the sessions. So the video will be available immediately at a link, and we will send you the link to the videos and also to the Google Doc and to the presentations.
Yeah, that is correct. It will be on a Zoom server. Yeah.
And also the next session will be like soon enough. It will be on this Thursday because we didn't have the first one. So the next one will be on 24th Thursday, and the last one on 29th of September, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
that is correct. Yeah.
Okay, then goodbye. Thank you to be.
Thank you.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.